Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. You tuned into Spectrum on Radio 1. My name is Edmond Chisdo, your host on Spectrum tonight. Should Uganda change the process through which judges are appointed? President Museveni is expected to appoint new judges soon, in a process expected to reveal the next Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice following the retirement of Justice Benjamin Odoki and the death of Lady Justice Constance Byamujisha, who had become the acting Deputy Chief Justice at the retirement of Lady Justice Alice Mpaji Bahigene last year. Many gaps are being reported in the judiciary to the extent that the Supreme Court cannot sit to hear certain matters, especially those that are constitutional in nature. The judiciary says that the lack of judges continues to stifle the delivery of justice. Uganda is governed under the doctrine of separation of powers, and the judiciary is one of the pillars that is expected to be independent from parliament and the executive. Despite this fact, judges are still appointed by the president, prompting many to question the independence of such officials. In fact, the debate about current judges surfaces each time the country waits for appointments. In Kenya, the judiciary has been protected by changing the process through which judges are appointed. These judges are now appointed after a thorough public scrutiny to ensure they are morally credible and based on qualifications and competence. In Uganda, the public can only be involved in the appointment of judges through the Appointments Committee of Parliament, where MPs who represent them vet these candidates. This process has, however, been questioned on grounds that is politically motivated and that the wishes of the president are easily protected, although some ministers were rejected when a cabinet reshuffle was announced last year. So as we prepare to receive the names of those who have been appointed judges, we look at the appointment process and what reforms need to be carried out. We'll also seek your views on what caliber of people you want appointed as judges. Our guests tonight, Mr. Ladislas Rwakafuzi, Senior Human Rights Lawyer from the Rwakafuzi and Company Advocates. You're most welcome, Mr. Rwakafuzi.
Thank you.
We also expect to be joined by Mr. Oscar Kihika, Senior Partner at Biencha Kihika and Company Advocates. He's also a former president of the Uganda Law Society. You're most welcome, Mr. Kihika.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Rwakafuzi, how does one get appointed as a judge?
The process today is that some people apply to the Judicial Service Commission, but there must be a vacancy declared. So people apply. The people who apply in most cases are members of those members who are not part of the bench. Those who are not registrars or magistrates. Because otherwise those other ones, they also apply, but through the judiciary itself. The judiciary recommends a person. You don't just apply. If you are within the judiciary itself will recommend you as fit and proper to be appointed judge. But if you are, say, a lawyer in private practice or anybody else qualified, you apply, then these days you sit.
Yes.
You sit some interviews, and then if you are successful, your name is taken to the President of the Republic of Uganda, and on receipt of that name, if he appoints you, then your name goes to Parliament for final approval, and that's that.
Is it a fair process? Is it a fair process?
The process, it is increasingly becoming fair, especially now. This new Judicial Service Commission has been very, very strict in terms of the kind of people that appear before it and the people who pass through it, who are recommended to the President to appoint as judges. So recently things have been very tight and tough at the Judicial Service Commission. Yes, but yeah, that's what I can say now. Yes.
And how is the bench constituted at the moment? Do we have a full bench?
No, we don't. Okay, for the High Court will have about 50 judges. we have about 50 judges, and on average, a judge or two retire almost every year. I can say that. So by the time, judges are not appointed every year. They are appointed almost after every 5 years. So when they appoint, say, 7 judges, in most cases they are replacing the ones who have retired. So you find that the manpower is not growing in terms of the judicial manpower has not been growing at the High Court, with the result that there's a lot of backlog, and the judges who are there are really overworked, and which is very, very unfair to them. They are poorly remunerated and overworked, and nobody thanks them. The only thing people say is that they are corrupt, and it's very demoralizing to be a judge today in the High Court. Then I'm sure your next question will be, how do you go to the Court of Appeal? Now, you can, to the Court of Appeal, if you are a judge within, I'm told you'll have to be recommended by the judiciary for you to go to the Court of Appeal, but even then you will have to sit interviews. That is a new innovation by the current Judicial Service Commission, sitting interviews, and the Uganda Law Society is consulted to put in its views about a given candidate, and we send our views to the Judicial Service Commission. We can say so and so is too lazy, and all that is not very cerebral. In other words, he's
not very brilliant.
He's not very brilliant. We are free to say all these things now. So in other words, the things are improving, but that is only from the point of view of the new Judicial Service Commission. They are making the process more transparent and that kind of thing. The only problem is that the Judicial Service Commission has to send these names to the President, and the President seems to be saying that, look here, the Constitution says it is me to appoint. But the Judicial Service Commission said it was the one almost appointing all that. The President's role is just to confirm. It's just function, just to confirm really, because the Judicial Service Commission will have vetted a person's capacity to work and all that kind of thing. But then the problem is that, you see, the President vetoes these names which are sent to him, because the President is a politician, and I'm sure he would be interested in having people of his own mind. Okay, now it's like this. In other democracies, for example, in the U.S., when the President is appointing a judge of the Supreme Court, if it was a person like Obama, if there is a vacancy in the Supreme Court, he will appoint a person who is like-minded, a liberal judge, somebody who will support, for example, gays and homosexuals and that kind of thing. So if there's a vacancy during a period of a president who is conservative, he will fill that vacancy with somebody. But you see, now here we are with a president who has been in power for 30 years. Yes, 30 years. And it seems as if he's the one who has appointed all the judges who are here now. And therefore, if we take it that they will all have to do what he wants, it's a very, very dangerous thing, because he has been around too long, and now the problem already we are seeing is that, for example, since April last year, several names were sent to him for him to appoint justices for the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And I've never talked to him, but I'm told, since April last year, now it is 1 year since that time, these justices have not been appointed, which would mean that he doesn't like them. He does not like the names. Yeah, but you see, the Judicial Service Commission sent people of high caliber. I mean, they did interviews, and they chose people people with integrity, and people who are are capable of delivering very good
It's a solid
guidance.
band and women.
Yeah, solid, yes.
We don't know who these people are. We always
No, not yet. I don't know them.
and we might know how many they are. Did they send a list of 7, 12?
Yeah, you see, the Court of Appeal is supposed to have 15 justices. The Court of Appeal is supposed to have 15 justices.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court is supposed to have 11 justices. So all those vacancies were filled. But now the problem, of course, is that
The list that they sent to the president is supposed to fill them.
was supposed to fill those vacancies, because you see the Supreme Court at that time had only around 6 justices out of 11. Now, so in other words, I think they should have prepared around five names
Yes.
for the Supreme Court, and the Court of Appeal is supposed to have 15 justices, and now it had 6 before the death of
So it's about 9. Okay, all right.
exactly, yeah, about 9. But now, of course, as you can see, already those names are no longer sufficient to fill those vacancies. After 1 year, so much has happened. So it is a very big problem. Actually, as we speak now, we are in a real
Absolutely. We'll talk about it. Some of them cannot form a quorum. Let's hear from somebody else. We'll get back to you because I'd like to get the bottom of
Yes, please.
issue just specifically and how it works with the president. Mr. Kika, you're welcome, Spectrum, once again.
Thank you very much.
What's your reading of this whole situation? The Judicial Service Commission seems to be locked in a tug of war with the president. How will it end if they are fighting like this over names?
I'm not so sure if they're fighting it, but what I think the request that is being sent to the executive is that he doesn't seem to be taking the role of the judiciary very seriously. And we're getting to a situation where we're actually not just getting to, we're actually in a crisis. Because currently, as things stand, if you look at the Court of Appeal, we already have a elected chief justice who passed away last week. Before then, we had another elected chief justice who returned legally. And then we have, I think, about 200 justices who died for service had expired because by law their terms had expired. They actually keep reserved by operation of the law. So in effect, really what we have is, if you look at the Court of Appeal, currently, and I'll be very specific, and I'll be saying when people think it is diplomatic. But you guys have played the this one here, right? The executive has made the Court of Appeal effective because essentially we have 104 judges serving. We have to have a minimum of 5. We only have 4 judges serving. So we can't have, if there is a constitutional petition filed, there will be no quorum to hear that application.
Yes.
So that's why we go to the Supreme Court, even one.
Yes.
The chief justice is sent for retirement as a race.
Yes.
Actually, as we speak right now, I think so they have, he's winding up his duties. I think he took him 23rd of March or thereabouts, his last 3 months for winding up. So that means that June 23rd is supposed to be vacated. Okay? Now, the chief justice, the other
So what's your reading of what is a busy man? He wants to travel this way, travel that way.
Illegal evictions.
So, yeah. Yes. So what should we do now? Give us some ideas. If the president is a busy man, what can we do? What's the alternative appointment method? Yes. Yes. Why? So what should we do? Okay, the underman, they also get pocket change, like the Chief Justice himself. $23 million. Where is that? Tell us where that money is paid. Yes. Yes.
You're private. You're private?
Captain, maybe. Yes. He's a general.
So surely, the judge should be earning more than the mayor.
Well, but I mean, in the private practice, you could technically pay him, you know, 5 million.
That's the abolition I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's why we're able to get money changed at it.
Mr. Kika, talk to us about an alternative legal legislature which has started.
But then, you're kind of like diverting me, but the question is very simple.
Yes.
If government is able to pay 22 million shillings for a legal officer, in case, right? Why can it not pay at least 30 million for a high court judge?
30 million shillings.
Yes.
Maybe they're listening.
Let me give you a bit of a comparison.
Yes. Yes.
Last year, government, I think, gave out resources to the 2 billion. They spent out 21 billion for the television
Anniversary. Jubilee.
Okay?
Yes.
High courts have good statistics. The translation rate.
The judiciary. You're right. So what should we do? Aside from the issue of pay, let's talk about the numbers. If the president, we know about the legislature, the third arm of government, appoints its own head, the speaker, is not appointed by the president. What should we do? Should the judiciary have a mechanism for appointing its judges and chief justice?
But they are not judges here. It.
Yes. Yes. So what do you want to do? And yes. All right. Okay, let's take a break. All right, we'll talk about that a little bit in more detail. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. We'll be back. Just stay with us, Mr. Kihika. We're coming.
Communications Commission invites entries for the third ASIA Awards, scheduled for June the 7th, 2013. Visit www.ucc.co.ug/awards for information on the categories and criteria. Deadline for entries is April the 30th, 2013. ASIA, ICT Innovation for National Development.
Excuse me, what is this 300 shillings on my bill for?
That is for the tinted candles, madam.
And this 100 shillings?
That is for the air conditioning.
And this 200 shillings?
For the blue walls, ma'am.
I can't believe this!
Why pray for what you don't use or ask for? That's why we at Standard Chartered are introducing the Easy Go account, the first current account of its kind that gives you complete control of your banking charges. For more details, visit a Standard Chartered branch or call 0414 340077.
Would you like to leave me a tip, please?
So I'm chilling at home with my crew. The boys are waiting to watch the game on the telly, but the chicks want to go to the beach. So how do we play it? A glance across the room. Eye contact is made. A plan is hatched. Pete will get some sand. Lots of it. Jeff will take care of the deco. Tim the entertainment, and I the clubs. And so we bring the beach to their apartment. If we can't go to the beach, we bring the beach to us. It's just how we do it.
It's not about where you're at. It's the difference you bring. Get a fresh take on things. Club is brewed longer for easier drinking. Brewed slower for great taste. Club, tastefully different. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, should Uganda change the process through which judges are appointed? Our guest tonight, Mr. Ladislas Rakafuzi, senior human rights lawyer from the Rakafuzi and Company Advocates, and Mr. Oscar Kihika on the line. He's a senior partner at Biencha Kihika and Company Advocates, also a former president of the Uganda Law Society. You two will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Rakafuzi here in the studio. Can you talk to us about what alternatives there can be to appointment of judges? The president seems to be very busy, can't appoint judges. The names have been sent to him by the Judicial Service Commission. He cannot act. How can we get out of that kind of paralysis?
I think we are going to continue like this because the president is not interested in this. Unless the constitution is amended and that power is taken away from him. Actually, unless that constitution is amended and all these appointments, not just in the Judicial Service Commission, not just the judicial appointments, but so many other appointments should be taken away from the president, because by wielding so much power, he creates.
Yes, Mr. Pia, we'll get back to you.
So he has created himself as a semi-god, and as if Uganda cannot move without him, and he's doing it deliberately. Let me tell you, it's not that he doesn't, that he's too busy or that kind of thing. No, I think the president, if you will understand him very well, is a person who is acted by formal processes whereby, say, a judge or a judicial officer sits in his chair and makes a decision according to law. The president does not like that kind of thing, especially if it is such a decision is according to law, but politically he does not like the decision. So that's why the president has created the other centers of arbitration. Actually, it's not arbitration. Actually, for want of a better word, for example, you can see these RDCs, they decide cases. So people, instead of people going to court, or when they go to court, they get frustrated. They go through the informal processes. Even they go to the president himself and they begin begging for justice from him. So he remains up there as a person who is everything. Yeah, everything. You know, that kind of thing.
All right.
So
let's look at some alternatives. Let's look at the Kenyan situation. Can we have a people appointed, recruited by public scrutiny? Can we have the public, an input from the general?
Here, public scrutiny is not the biggest problem, because Kenya had a problem with their judges who had gone overboard in terms of corruption, nepotism, and that kind of thing. But our judges here are very straight people, really,
we can have the same system but slightly amended.
Yes, exactly. That is very true. Our judges, I think they are managing in very difficult circumstances. But you see, what I'm trying to say is that the president doesn't care about anarchy. As my land friend Kika has said, this anarchy, which the president keeps saying, people killing each other and so on and so forth, he wants everything to go back to him and say, look here, Mr. President, this thing is happening. Then he will begin preaching, talking, and so on and so forth, and to show that he's the one in charge of everything. It's a very big problem. So, for example, now there are more than 400 people who are in courts martial, civilians in courts martial.
More than 400 civilians in the court martial.
Yes,
military courts.
Military courts. Now, why have they been taken there? Because they have said the civil courts are not effective. But do you know what that means? They are saying the civil courts will hear these cases, you know, and release these people.
They're not punish them hard enough.
Exactly. See, but now you take people to a court which has no jurisdiction to try them. At the same time, they never try these people. I can speak, and I want to be on record. Out of the 400 cases tried by the military, the convictions so far, they have the military in the last 6 years. The military has convicted, out of 400, has convicted 23 people, and of the 23 people, 19 have been through confessions. They tell them, look here, accept this case so that we can give you a shorter sentence, a lenient sentence. They force them, you see. And then when a person calculates and says, look here, I've been on remand for so many years, 3-4 years, so I'd rather have a definite sentence to serve than be on remand indefinitely. So through a trade-off, then. So now it's a very big problem. And now, if we had enough justices,
yes,
if we had enough justices,
yes,
so the president knows all these things. That after all, the court martial is there, the RDCs are there. They will act as judicial officers, and so those centers of power over which he has control, like the court martial, the RDCs, those are the things he wants. And so it's not true that the president is too busy. He does not notice that the judiciary is kind of constrained and constricted. He knows it, and he's doing it deliberately.
Well, but the man has a vision. He knows what to do. Some of those.
The problem are the people who made the constitution in 1995. You see, that CA, if it could reverse, of course, it's too late. You know, it was very wrong to put so much power in the hands of one person.
And the Chief Justice was the chairman of that Constitutional Commission. Instead of just being joined in the studio with Mr. Oscar Kika, our second guest tonight, senior partner at Bencher Kika and company advocates, also former president of the Uganda Law Society. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So what are the alternatives? We put notices in the newspapers, advertise these jobs, then what? If we take away the power from the president?
You know, you can't, I mean, like my colleague has said, unfortunately, the format has been set in stone by the 1995 Constitution, and nothing much can be done, because these judges are really appointed at the pleasure of the president. The parliament, on the other hand, what it does, if you've noticed, it basically, they are bridesmaids in the whole situation, because the Judicial Service Commission, the GSC, after it has done the interviews and all that, even all the spots that you see of advertising, it's trying to, and you do credit to that, it's trying to make the process transparent. Okay. Now, once they have done they have advertised made the advertisements, people interested make the applications. The JSC, I have no doubt about the process, conduct interviews. But at the end of the day, after they've done the technical evaluation, if I can use those terms, then make the recommendation to the president. The president says, okay, based on your recommendation,
look at the color of his tie.
Well, yes.
Color judges. What about color judges?
Absolutely. Then the president will then select and even deduct, names from this list as recommended by the GSC from this transparent process.
Yeah.
And then the names that the president will have selected are then pushed to Parliament. Now Parliament plays the role of a bridesmaids, really.
Well, let's not even talk about Parliament. If the GSC has done, it's a technical arm. Because Parliament, you really can't do much.
The Parliament really doesn't have, really, they don't have the
Parliament.
Maybe that's not a big problem. Let's look at the logjam between the GSC. Can the president import a name that wasn't given to him by the GSC?
No, that's where the tragedy is, and this we need to re-examine this.
Can he bring in a name from outside of the GSC?
Yeah, he does.
And you see,
he does.
But I understand the Judicial Service Commission, the current Judicial Service Commission has not been very friendly to that. And I think that's what
can they throw some names away?
No, so far the interviews which have been done, and the names recommended to the president, and I'm sure the president president has wanted his own names, and the Judicial Service Commission has refused.
Well, what happens when he appoints a judge? What happens? Tell us about that.
What
Does it have to be approved by the JSC, for instance?
No.
No.
The JSC just forwards names
To the president.
after it's
And he can name anyone
technical-
from outside of that
So
list.
it sends a list.
Yes.
From after it has done its technical evaluation based on merit.
Right.
Now, then when it gets to the president, the president's office, the president then decides which of those names he's going to forward to Parliament.
And he can get somebody from outside of that list, technically speaking.
Technically speaking, in the past it has happened.
But not with this Judicial Service Commission.
Well, what can
I think that's why there is a logjam. That's why there is a
What
logjam.
can the JSC do? Does he have to get their approval?
Unfortunately, that's why the hands are tied.
Yeah, the hands are tied. Because you see, the president is arguing that he's the one who appoints, because the constitution is
Let's get the clarity here. The JSC sends 18 names to the president.
Yeah.
The president gets another 2 people. Why does he have to go back to the JSC?
Actually,
It's
what the GSC is doing is to send the exact names. For example, if there are 7 vacancies in the...
They send 7.
They send 7.
So it's like we've made up our mind.
Exactly. And the
Stamp
president says, but I'm the one appointing, send me more names. And they
say no.
No, those are the ones we...
But he can bring in some people dressed in certain colors. What will the JSC be if the president appoints someone?
No.
from outside
Okay.
of the list?
I'll tell you this. Subject to certain confidentialities, what's the word?
Could be privy to the list, maybe.
I am bound by the law. Of course, the Law Society and the President of the Law Society plays a role in this one here. As President of the Law Society, there is a role I played in the appointment of judges. I cannot make this process. I cannot make revelations on account of
You're having been privy.
Having been privy, and so some of the actions I took are always going to be subject to secrecy by certain oaths that I took. So I'm bound by that. However, in general terms, I can tell you this, that the JSC, at the time when I was president, made some recommendations. They did their interviews. Names were presented, and they were sent to His Excellency. And with due credit to His Excellency, he then reverted to me as President of the Law Society with regard to the names of those that were amongst those of my members. For purpose of reference, and say, look, are you sure this guy is proper and blah blah blah? And I recognize that that he actually
there's some consultation.
There was actually consultation.
But why is he not appointing? The bench is empty.
Now that's my problem, because, and I'm sure that even with my predecessors, this process has continued. But after the reports have been sent, then
he really should stamp on them.
Why sit on them? Either take the recommendation of, as he did in my time when I was president of the Law Society. He chose to accept some of my recommendations, and some of the characters were made judges. Others he chose to disregard. There are others where I had my reservations, and he took my reservations and
he dropped them.
And he dropped them. And whereas we are bashing him, he actually does take technical advice.
How much does politics play? What the color of your tie? How much power does that have?
To be honest with you, at the time when I was president of the Law Society, I didn't see any evidence of that. Contrary
Let's get the context. How many elections back?
No, I was president of the Law Society from 2007 to 2009.
That's 2 elections back.
Yeah, that was 2 elections back. And at the time, to be honest with you, the judges that were appointed
were solid people.
Were actually the ones that eventually came onto the bench were actually appointed on merit.
All right.
After due,
let's hear from the listeners.
That's as far as I can go, really. Yeah.
Let's hear from the listeners.
My quarrel is this: the president actually does go through due process.
Well, but the question is why.
Why does he delay it? That's where my quarrel is.
Maybe he's a busy man. Well, let's hear from you, the listeners. 0414-348-111, 031-226-0390, 031-226-1390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. In Kenya, they had this transparency process. The ULS has said the input of the public is not necessarily the best thing. They almost rejected. Okay, Spectrum, hello? Yes? Yes, Bob.
Now we're dealing with the problem of an almighty president. President is an institution, not a person. The problem came from the CA. In the CA, there were people, a cohort of people, who were close to the corridors of power. And to them, their interest was to have an almighty president so that they can go to Entebbe, worship at the altar of the presidency, and get benefits. Now we have to dismantle this through a constitutional review. And there's no way we can go around that but through a constitutional review. The Sultan of Uganda.
Yes? Hello? Bob, we lost you. We really would like to hear the tail end of that point. Hello, Bob? Well, we seem to have lost you, but Bob, if you can call back, Bob in Chinda, I would like to hear the conclusion of
his views were quite interesting.
Yes, the constitutional review. So worship can stop. Spectrum, hello? Alex in Bali.
I would like to ask those guys, as if the president will take over power, what can they do to induce him to appoint judges or meet his obligation as the president, his constitutional obligation?
Spectrum, hello? 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 Okay, let's hear from the studio. Spectrum, hello? Good evening, your name? Stefano, yes? Spectrum, hello. Hello. Yes, your name? Yes, Mr. Yuko.
Yes, thank you. Thank
Spectrum, hello. Good evening, sir. Your name? Moses, yes? Let's take our final caller. Spectrum, hello. Okay, let's get straight back to the studio. Okay, hello. Your name, my friend? You're live on Spectrum. We've lost you. Let's get straight back. Mr. Rakafuzi. In Kenya, they interviewed men. They got a chief justice. He almost got rejected because they say he wears an earring. He's changed religion 3 times. How far should the public be involved? And then they had a process which many people have hailed, and they got a deputy chief justice who drew a gun on a supermarket woman.
Yes, and she lost her.
She lost her job.
Yes. Personally, I don't think that we need to go the Kenya way in terms of public scrutiny, because our judges here have not been very disappointing. The ones who have been appointed, including the so-called cadre judges, the so-called cadre judges, they have performed their judicial duties very well.
Justice Kanyama was an NRM when he was appointed.
Yeah, he was.
And he's been one of the more critical ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And he got a mix, but let's get to some credit. Remy Kasule was a DP, Justice Mlenga was a DP, and they were appointed, and he's been able to accommodate them, even though they were not NRM necessarily.
Exactly. Most judges, really, when you take the judicial oath, really, you look at the facts as they are, as they come to you. You don't look at the parties who are before you and say this one is the FDC or whatever. You look at the facts which are before you and the law and make judgment. Most of our judges. So we don't need to go through the Kenya way, which is sometimes very embarrassing and so on and so forth. The Kenya needed to do so because the judges
they needed healing of the institution.
Exactly.
There'd been extreme corruption.
Just document his submission there. The level of corruption in Kenya, the judicial system in Kenya, had reached levels that were unprecedented. Ugandans will never pretend to appreciate this, but those of us who interacted with our colleagues in the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, it was appalling. It was shocking. So they have to take very drastic measures to address the situation. Now, the levels of corruption in Kenya are nowhere. They are far above. Let me say them.
They even had Goldenberg.
The levels of corruption in Uganda, in the Ugandan judiciary, right, are nowhere near to the ones that
right.
Yeah. So I don't think that we need to go through this process. And as my learned friend has stated, that by and large, and I need to give kudos to especially our judicial officers at the High Court level, Court of Appeal level, and the Supreme Court level. By the way, on the balance on the balance of probabilities really here, they actually, in the hard circumstances that they have been serving under,
in the poverty
and stuff like that. By the way, these people have been very, very straight and honorable. Really.
At the high level,
at the high level, yes.
Below that, you can't say. But
below that, I'm not about to put my hand there. But from that level onwards, really,
with 5 million shillings every month,
and with 5 million shillings, and let me tell you something: 5 million shillings
before tax.
I want you to.
No, they are not taxed.
They are not taxed, but still, at 5 million shillings, look, some of them have got 5, 6 kids. They
have an extended family.
They've got extended families, and this perception that they are big people.
Exactly. You see, you are not going to get a house in a corner somewhere. You see, you have to get a house that is decent.
And let me tell you something. These judges, against all odds, really serve this nation.
Yeah. And the thank you they get is that they are corrupt. You see, it is also very...
They are insulted after being clean.
After doing their best in those really restricted circumstances.
Maybe they'll get their reward in heaven.
No, but before heaven comes, we need the public really to understand. We need them to understand. Because you see, look, we have members of parliament. I think they earn an average of 20 million shillings. Around 20 million shillings a month. And you see, really, the judiciary is an arm of government.
And it's not 300, it doesn't have 300 people.
It doesn't have 300 people.
It has judges in the High Court.
Yes.
50 judges in the High Court.
So you could only have maybe like 17.
So in total, so even if we had 100,
we can afford to pay them.
We can afford to pay them.
How much should we pay them? We're paying them 5
No,
million.
my recommendation, and I'm very, very insistent on this one, 50 million.
A judge.
For the Chief Justice.
No. This is for High Court judge.
For the High Court judge.
What will the Chief Justice get? 300 million shillings?
No. You don't have to put him all that far.
Well, if you
give him about 70 million. 70 million. 70 million.
That's all we could do.
It's not that kind of money. Not even the executive director whom we like so much. You don't give us so much.
No, let me tell you something. I have done the maths. on this one. We can afford to pay them that much.
Yes. You think we can afford to pay them? You don't seem to agree, Honorable Mr.
He may disagree with me, and I'll...
The Chief Justice should get 50 million.
Yes.
The Deputy 45 million.
Yes.
Then
35 each.
Yes, 35.
Yeah. By the way, even at that formula, it still works. Remember the formula I was telling you, where the example I was telling you, where we spent 21 billion
on the 50th anniversary.
So, the mere fact that you have this amount of funds available, right?
That's not the only money we have. We even give a compensation.
There's even more.
169
It means that
somewhere.
if going by Rakafozi, going by your formula, well, if you have about say 30 judges in the High Court, times 30 million,
that's 900.
That is 900 million for 1 year.
Yes. Yeah.
For 1 year, 900 million
Per month.
per month. No. This is
30 million for 30 judges. That's 900 million every month.
Every month. It's possible.
It's possible.
But you see, the whole thing which is taking our money. You see, the judiciary, the way to say, the housing of the judicial houses
Scattered all over the
place. And in rented places.
And some ceilings,
very high.
Some ceilings change their mind
At a lot of money. At a lot of money.
Let me
And
tell you.
I really, up to now, I don't understand. Oscar, Mengo, many of these rooms are empty in Mengo.
Maybe the tenant,
You see?
the landlord is not a good.
No. But you see, we have the chief magistrate's courts there. You see, at the lower level. I mean, most of those rooms are empty. Then here, the High Court here, the main building.
Yes.
I mean, most of it is empty. You find one registrar is sitting in a former courtroom.
And we're renting.
Yes, exactly.
Basically, what Rakafozi
We have cut our landlords.
No. Basically, what Rakafozi is saying is that we are spending more money on rent for these premises than on the salary.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And it's not necessary.
Yet there is space.
We have space in our
Rent-
house,
rent free.
but then we rent from other places. Why do we do that?
Where is
There's no logic in this
There's
thing.
no logic.
Every commercial court,
Maybe we are building the capacity of the landlords.
What my colleague and myself have tried to do is highlight some of the absurdities in the decision-making processes of government.
Absurdities indeed. We have to end here. Thank you very much, Judge. I guess we can't really conclude this tonight.
Yes.
Mr. Oscar Kihika, senior partner at BNC Kihika & Company Advocates, also former president of the Uganda Law Society. Thank you for joining us tonight. Mr. Ladislas Rakafozi, senior human rights lawyer from the Rakafozi & Company Advocates. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Chizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow up next in the news in English.
Sunlight, it's freshness that stays with you all day. The fragrance that lasts.
Try the new range of Sunlight 2-in-1 washing powders for sensational cleaning and all-day fragrance.
There are those who sit around waiting for things to happen. But then there are those who make things happen. Take a closer look. While some people follow trends, there are those who set them.